I want to talk a little bit about the night of the crime. Okay. I want to talk about what what they want you to believe and what their evidence says, as opposed to what I'm telling you happened. Okay. That we've actually got from a bunch of loudmouths, well, secondhand from a bunch of loudmouths that claim to have been there that night, as opposed to basically everyone going by what Gypsy says and what Nick says. Okay. Basically, because you're not looking at what the physical evidence does not match what they're trying to tell you. Okay, but we'll get into that. First, I want to talk about is, all right, Nick didn't get there till, well, we know after 1:29 a.m. for sure. Okay. She, keeps saying that something about the 9th. Well, on June 10th at 1:29 a.m., a text message goes from Gypsy to Nick. Will he allow me to wet his penis? Your penis, because she's trying to play that, evil side. So, refer to him in the third person type deal, right? Before he takes me, hun. I don't know if he's going to do anal or vag. I was hoping anal. Okay, well, that's nice. But that was at 1:29 a.m. Okay. So let's assume, it was probably at least 2 a.m. he got there. All right. Why, when he comes in the door, does she lie to him and say she's on sleeping pills? She's taking sleeping pills, and just be quiet. Go in there and stab her up and finish her off. But be quiet about it because she's taking a bunch of sleeping pills. Well, we found out later in toxicology that she didn't. Now, I know, well, what's that matter? What does that matter? It's just another stupid lie. I know Gypsy lies about everything. They just flow out of her mouth freely. I get that. But this lie, think about it, you guys. You have to go to the setting. You have to go to the time and place and think about what was going on there. I'm telling you that she had already ended her mother with the other 5 people. I've told you it was there. David Blanchard, his wife Kim, Ace Bannister, real name Brian Rogers, and Dan Glidewell were there with Gypsy. Okay? They did her in the kitchen. They drained her. They moved her into the bedroom with the sheets. They moved her with the sheets. And there was some blood on the sheets. That's about it. All right? Why did she tell him that? And we know it's not true. Now think about it. She got done. And I'm telling you, it was a Judas sacrifice because that's her mother. They take them around midnight, a new beginning. And don't you see? June 9th was when Dee Dee's mother died. This was all orchestrated like this. This just didn't happen. This was planned and orchestrated. Okay, from June 9th, which was the day her mother died, so I figured, well, and going into the 10th. I'm telling you, it's a Judas sacrifice. Right around midnight, they took her. So 1:29, we've got her saying these kind of text messages. So I'm telling you, she was at least dead a couple hours before he got there. Okay? And, there's blood all over the kitchen. But there's no blood anywhere in the fucking bedroom, guys, except for really on the sheet, maybe a couple things. There's not really, if you're saying that he went in there and he was on her back and just stabbing the shit out of her until she died, there should have been blood flying out everywhere. If he was stabbing her in the back and he says he hit her lung, if there wasn't blood flying out all over on him like that, it's because she was already dead. I'm telling you guys, they drained her in the kitchen. Now, a couple things that don't make sense. It doesn't make sense that she lied about that. It doesn't. And we know she did. It's because it's the only explanation for why when he goes in there, she's not moving around. She's not doing anything. Okay? The one time Nick says, yeah, at first she was struggling and stuff. I don't believe that. He's either lying for her for whatever reason, or he's remembering it wrong, or that bitch slammed it in his head for the few days they were together for him to say that. I don't know. But she wasn't struggling. She wasn't fighting. She was gone. And then he says when he's on her back stabbing her, he says she wasn't fighting or doing anything. Now, come on, you guys. Come on, you guys. All right? She lied about the sleeping pills because he knew she wouldn't be moving or doing anything. That's why. That's the only reason why. Think about this, guys. She just finished killing her mother a couple hours ago. She's running around cleaning. She's trying to stage the place, knowing now she's got to trick this dude. And it's in the back of her head. She's supposed to kill him, too. Let's not forget that part. The only reason he survived is because he didn't get a hard on. Because they needed his semen. And if you don't think that she was going to rub that semen all over her mutilated genitals, Dee Dee's, and then it was going to be some in her, too, that's what they were going to do. All right? And then, well, she defended herself and killed this maniac that raped the mother, mutilated her all down there, killed her, stabbed her up, and then went for the daughter. Oh, well, she would be a hero then. That was the plan. Somehow she fucked up. Surprise, surprise, though, she fucks everything up. Just like they're cleaning up in the kitchen. Blood everywhere. But, of course, you know, the police were working for her, so they covered that right up. So this doesn't make sense about the sleeping pills. She wouldn't think to just throw a lie like that in there, just for fun, just to lie about it, just to do it. No, she did it for a very specific reason, because it will help explain why she's not moving or doing anything. Oh, well, she's just knocked out on sleeping pills. That's what it is. She's just so knocked out. She's not doing anything. Okay? The recording is what he heard. They recorded Dee Dee earlier and somehow played it through that fucking dinosaur. That is why I put it down there. Now, when I first started making videos, the first information I had is, if you guys can go back and look, I didn't know about that dinosaur had anything to do with it. I said somehow they played a recording. And I said to everyone, I said, I don't know how yet. I don't know where. I don't know if there was a speaker stashed in the room. That's what I said. And she could control it from Bluetooth out there. I didn't know if one of those dudes was still hiding in the room, maybe playing it. I said that to you. But then I got information later from people that said, no, it was the Barney doll. It was in the Barney doll. Now, what the functionality of that Barney doll is, I don't know. But what I'm saying is, if it had a speaker system, which it did, because it's a talking Barney doll, these guys can manipulate it just to play out a few things. All she heard was who are you, which I want to talk about, and what she yelled, Gypsy, a couple times, or help me or don't hurt me, something like that, and that was it. Then he's on her, stabbing her. She doesn't do anything else. They've got a recording somehow. I've had some people say that they got a dinosaur that looks like that, where they could pinch the hand and say a small recording, and then you do something else, do it again, and it will play it back. So was it that simple? I don't know that part. All I know is that's why she laid it down there on the far side of her head, so on the other side that Nick could hear that. Now, supposedly he comes in and says, who are you? You guys, she knew who Nick was, and she liked Nick. Let's think about this. We have to go back and think. She's used to going over and having and fetching her from Dan Glidewell and Brian Ross, all these old men, okay? And these other old men and these men. This is what she used to her daughter running around with. Now, she's above 18. That's fine. She likes older men. That's, you know, hey, once you're 18, if you like fucking 50-year-olds, that's your business, man. Right? I'm not down on her for that at all. I'm not. But what I'm saying is, her mother was used to that. And now for this dude to come along, just a couple years older than her, but very timid and meek and mild. Come on, you guys. If you had a daughter that was wild and out there, who would you want them date? Nicholas Godejohn? Or any of them fucking freaks that dress up like Star Wars and shit? That are in their 30s and 40s and stuff. I think we know the answer. As evidenced by this article that I had, I don't know where it is. It was on some video somewhere that was taken down. I can probably get it. But there was an article that said it. And the article was made in either May or April. Could have been March. A couple months before the murder. And she said in there, she was quoted. It said her name, quoted as, yes, Gypsy's dating a man named Nick. And I'm not sure she said the last name or not. I think just Nick. And she said, and they are so in love. And she says, and they're in love. She says, and it's very lovely to see. That's what she said, the word lovely, verbatim. Okay? So that means she knows who he is. And she liked him. That's what the people say that are from that area. What are you talking about? Gypsy was never in a wheelchair. What are you talking about? Gypsy walked around everywhere. And, oh, no. She liked Nick. She was running around telling everybody that would listen about Nick. Finally, not some freak that's just using my Gypsy for sex or whatever. You know what I mean? Come on, guys, think. She knew exactly who he was, and she liked him. That doesn't make sense at all. It doesn't make sense. Okay? He heard a recording. They did her in the kitchen. She was gone right between the 9th turning into the 10th, right in there. And then Nick doesn't come for a couple hours later. You guys, this is what happened, man. Nothing else. There's blood. And then we want to say, okay, the blood in the kitchen. Well, Nick cut his hand when he was stabbing up. Cut his finger when he was stabbing up Dee Dee. Okay, well, there's wipe smears out all in the kitchen. You can see that they try to clean it up. But then there's blood drops that they missed. In the crime scene photo showed they got the markers, red arrow markers pointing at these big blood drops on the floor, on I think an Entenmann's cookie bag, on a bag of fucking flour, up on cabinets that are installed 6.5 feet up. I believe there was even something, a speck, someone told me, on the fucking ceiling. Okay, specks on the ceiling. Again, I'm not a forensics fucking, specialist or whatever. But I know enough to know that that usually happens from a blunt force nailing someone in the head with something. It'll fly up that way. Or if you stab down into someone, there's blood all over the knife and you pull it out real rough and it can sling up there. But I think that usually has like a trail. I don't know what was up there, but I was told there was. But anyway, it doesn't matter. Even on the fucking cabinets. You guys. Also, Nick was talking about she was running around on her hands and knees, naked, cleaning up But they weren't in the bedroom then. Cleaning up what? What? There was blood all over the fucking kitchen because they did it on the kitchen floor. It was a sacrifice. It was a ritual. They did a ritual. They tortured her. She took they want to say it's a phoenix rising. I was told it was some kind of evil angel that was a nod to Lucifer. But whatever the case, it doesn't matter what it was. She carved it slowly and methodically with them holding her down or knocked out or whatever. She wasn't on drugs. We know that. Unless she was and they lied about it. That could be it. They could have got the toxicology back. She was whacked up with all kinds of shit and they lied about it. But who knows? She carved that on her and then got a trophy of it later, man. That took time to sit and do. Okay, and then let's talk about, all right, well, let's just, they want you to believe that it was Gypsy and Nick alone there. Somehow she overpowered her big-ass mother. No disrespect, but you know what I mean. Gypsy's a tiny little thing, man. And she's at least gaining a little weight now. She wasn't big as a minute back then, and she was like 4'11", isn't she? Overpowered her mother and then stabbed her in the back all these times, and then tucked her in bed, or her mother ran from her to hide in the bed and just laid there and let this happen. Guys, it doesn't make sense, man. Just like when they're trying to tell you she bled internally, that's how she died. That doesn't make sense. When they found her body, she would have been black and blue head to toe. Black. It doesn't go peach like that days later. You're saying you can't have it both ways, man. If you're saying she bled internally, she bled internally, which means it would have bled into cavities, which means then it would have seeped out through by way of gravity to the tissue. She would have been black. You guys, when you get a bruise on your arm, it's because someone punched you and just a little capillary or something, you run into something, whatever. It's because little capillaries broke in there. And that little bit of blood from just small capillaries, that's different than a big puncture where blood's going in. Just the little capillaries make that black and blue because that's the blood that came out of the vessels and is in the tissue now, and it's being absorbed by it and dissipating. Okay, guys? That's the same thing that's going to happen with the body, but it's going to be, it's massive. You're bleeding into a cavity. That's what it would have looked like. They lied. The autopsy's a lie. It's not true. She did not die that way. That's untrue. She died of hypovolemic shock or exsanguination, when all your blood volume just leaves you. Okay? That's what happened. And then they moved her there. You guys, this is what happened, man. What they're saying doesn't make sense. There's blood all over the kitchen, but there's no blood anywhere in there, except for a little bit on the sheets and a couple drops somewhere. It doesn't make sense that a bloody massacre went in there. You guys, come on, man. All these things don't make sense, man. If it doesn't make sense, it's because it's not true.